You chose. You choosing to show up is a choice. You choosing not to show up is also a choice. That is you choosing, okay, I'm okay being where I'm at. But are you? Get in, losers. We're going lifting. Bitch, if you keep ghosting your goals, your results are going to ghost you. People don't ghost because they're lazy. People ghost for different reasons. And we will dive into that in today's episode. But before we do that, I want you to just take a moment and think about the thing that you really want that, yeah, maybe you have been ghosting at moments in time. Does anything initially come up for you as to why you're ghosting this, even though you want it really flippin' bad? I'm going to tell you something personal. So this isn't directly connected to fitness, but I've been working on coming out with my supplement, Afterburn. And there have absolutely been moments in the process of creating this supplement where I've ghosted. And for me, the ghosting comes from a place of fear. What if I fuck this up? What if I do the wrong thing? You know, I have people who are helping me and supporting me and telling me this is the game plan, but there's a part of me where I've never done this before. And the fear of failing is freaky. And when you are working towards something in the midst of working on other things, I think the overwhelm is really real. And some of the things that I have been doing to help overcome that is giving myself some non-negotiables and almost lowering the level of expectation that I have on myself. Because for me, I think when we put so much pressure on ourselves and it's almost like these unrealistic expectations, or you're in a new territory where I don't actually know what's realistic for me to expect. When we just kind of take the pressure off, it can make it a lot easier to just do the best we can with what we know up until this point. The real issue with ghosting when it comes to your fitness goals is the inconsistency that comes with it. The only way you are going to be building muscle and strength and dropping the body fat is showing up consistently. And listen, every day doesn't need to be perfect. It's kind of like the bank account analogy. Have you heard me talk about that? So if you've never heard it, if you have a bank account and you put $100 into the bank account, your account grows by $100. If you put $10 into your bank account, your account, it's not going to grow as much as 100, but there's still money that you're depositing. The only time there's not more money in the bank account is when you put zero in. And that's the same with your nutrition, with your sleep, your water, your fitness. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to put something in if you want to continue to see yourself make progress. And when you are ghosting the situation, that is the zero. That's you running away. That's you being scared. And I get it. You know, it can be scary to go after something that, you know, you haven't had a tremendous amount of success with yet. You don't know what to expect. But sometimes it's good to do it, even if it's kind of messy, even if you have to ask for more help or clarification or support versus running away when the going gets tough. And, you know, if you end up skipping a workout because of whatever, you know, it's really not going to make that big of a deal if it happens, you know, 1 week, if it happens even 2 weeks. But when it just continues to happen again and again, then yeah, the results, they're not going to come. I've had people literally sign up for training with me and they confirm, I'm going to see you on this day at this time. I confirm with private clients a month in advance, and then I always do like a confirmation with them the day before our session. And I have people who continuously just ghost the session, and they're being charged for the session. And I think for a lot of people, that's not necessarily always stuff that feels like it's in their control, but to an extent it is. Excuses come up. Well, I had to be on this call. Well, this emergency came up, and is this really an emergency, or could you have said no? Could you have waited? I don't know. I'm me. I'm not other people. But when you keep avoiding the thing that you need to do in order to move the needle forward, you can't be upset with where you are at. You chose. You choosing to show up is a choice. You choosing not to show up is also a choice. That is you choosing, okay, I'm okay being where I'm at. But are you? I thought you wanted the strong, defined body. You need the actions to match what it is you're saying if you want that result. Otherwise, maybe that's not the result you want, or maybe it's not the result that you want at this point in time, and that's okay. I think it's so important to meet people where they're at. What do you want? What are you ready to commit to? What is the entry point where we can get you into some type of a routine where you are feeling successful at this point in the journey? Listen, I train 4 to 5 times a week. My workouts these days are at least a hard 75 minutes. A lot of times they do go longer, and the reason that they go longer is because I'm shooting content throughout. So sometimes, I can end up being outside closer to 90 minutes, if not 2 hours. Somebody who is just beginning to work with kettlebells, and they're not in like an intensive setting. The swing to snatch athletes that I work with, those people, they're going into the fire. They asked to go into the fire. It's a very short amount of time. It's 13 weeks where they are training for a required 4, if not 5 times a week. But for most people, when you haven't been in a routine, or you're just transitioning from, group fitness to the world of strength training, and you put an expectation on yourself, like, I have to train 5 times a week, and then life is happening and you don't get to train 5 times a week, it's really easy to think to yourself, well, why fucking bother? So instead of doing that, give yourself something easier to start to adhere to. Can you start showing up twice a week? Can you start showing up 3 times a week? Can you do that consistently over the course of, a month, 2 months, 3 months? You eventually become this person. You become this person where it's just a part of who you be. And then it's really easy to be like, okay, you know what? I do want more. I'm ready for the next level. I'm going to take on 4, maybe 5 times a week. And I say like the maybe 5 times because your program design really needs to be in alignment with your lifestyle and your goals if you actually need that 5th day or not. But you need to meet yourself where you're at so that you don't keep ghosting the situation. And why could this happen? Maybe you're feeling really overwhelmed. Maybe you're even feeling burnt out and it's just, this isn't fun anymore. And then we have to have the conversation, is this about fun? Is this about discipline? Is it about results? Is it about something else? What do you want? You know that scene in The Notebook of Ryan Gosling talking to Rachel McAdams and he's, what do you want? And it's not that simple. Yeah, sometimes it's not that simple. And that's why we need to get clarity with what it is we actually want. So many people say, I want strong and defined. Many people, once they realize this is what is required, they actually don't want that. And that's okay. If you realize, I want to feel stronger. I want more muscle than I currently have. But I still want to have, wine multiple times a week. I don't want to say no to dessert ever. I want to see myself, in a body that feels really good for, the entirety of my life. I want to try different types of workouts. I want this to be like a really fun and diverse experience. That's great. I think that's so cool. That's what you want. And guess what? You can do it. However, When the goal is specific to something like strong and defined, how do you define strong? And how do you define defined? I define defined as you have a low body fat percentage and I can see muscle. You are ripped up. You are more than just toned. And if that comes across different in your mind, what does that look like? I had a conversation with a woman in the DMs the other day, and I had put up a poll and I was like, what are you currently doing to achieve strong and defined? Or do you want strong and defined? And this woman was like, yes, this is what I want. And when I asked her, so how do you, what are you currently doing? And what does that look like to you? And she's explaining to me more so what I previously said. She wants a body that feels stronger. She wants a body where she feels confident in her clothing. She wants a body where she feels like she can dance and move freely and do whatever activity. You can have that without having six-pack abs. And I think sometimes there's almost like this pressure that, I need the six-pack. I need all this definition. And I'll tell you, if that's what you want, you can have it. But in order to do that, it is a very specific plan that you need to follow to achieve that. And a lot of times it's not super exciting. It's kind of boring. When I was in my calorie surplus in 2024, and I was like, this is the time to really focus in on building more muscle, my workouts were so fucking boring. Something that I love about hardstyle kettlebell technique is all of the ballistic work. I love snatching. I love swinging. I love Turkish get-ups. Those exercises bring me so much energy. Those exercises do require a lot of skill, a lot of learning, and they're not the best exercises if the goal is I'm trying to pack muscle on. They're just not. There's better exercises when that's the goal. And when I went into this build phase, I was not, mentally stimulated the same way, but it didn't matter because that goal was more important to me. So wherever you fall, whatever you want, what I would encourage you to think is what actually matters to you versus what other people are saying matters to them or what other people are working towards. Your goals matter. If your goal isn't to get a six-pack, that doesn't mean it's any less than. But when you can start to be real with yourself with where you are at and what is a realistic thing you can start to do consistently instead of ghosting because you're biting off way too much than what you can chew in this current moment of life, that's when you're going to stop ghosting. That's when you're going to start to see more results. I think sometimes people think I need to run before I can walk. Nail basic things first. And then we can start to add, and you're going to see more from that. The ghosting, I also think it can come from something that has nothing to do with the workouts themselves. Sometimes it's just like mental or emotional overload from life. So what do you do when you are overwhelmed? You do things that maybe help you numb out. They help to distract you. They give you some type of comfort. Working out for most people is not comfort. You are doing something uncomfortable. Some people love it. Some people are like, this is my therapy. It is very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very cathartic. And if that's you, that's great. But if that's not you and you are, picking Netflix instead, I get it. But in order to help yourself, it's worth talking with somebody to figure out, how do I navigate what I'm going through emotionally so that I'm not letting myself down, so that I am showing up for myself. You know what feels terrible? I think everybody would agree with me on this. Something that feels terrible is saying, I'm going to commit to this fitness plan. And you show up and you show up well for a week, a month, and then life hits and you're just like, I can't anymore. It doesn't feel good. You started something and you started it really well. And to then kind of get, slapped by whatever's happening in life and just like going off the grid, it doesn't feel good. And sometimes it can be like kind of embarrassing to try to get back in or to talk to that person. I've had clients all throughout the years where we're going good and then something crazy happens, like a pandemic. And people, people get scared. People have things going on outside of their fitness routine and you don't hear from them. You can always go back. You can always have a conversation. I try to keep the door open with past clients. I'm actually thinking of one in particular right now. Oh my gosh, she made so much progress. I had a woman who, I don't know how she did it all. She had a very stressful job in New York City. She was in the midst of planning a wedding. She totally made the switch from the group fitness lifestyle to becoming a kettlebell queen. She was working with Hillary Irvin. She lost a lot of weight. She built so much muscle. She was just like on fucking fire. And then I don't know what happened, but just ghost. I remember reaching out to Hillary being like, have you heard from so-and-so? And she's, no, she ghosted me. And I was like, I haven't heard from her either. And at first I was like, is she alive? What is going on? But then I started seeing, oh, she's watching my stories. I think she's okay. But I don't know why she is no longer communicating with either of us, because nothing crazy happened. But both of us knew there was definitely some higher stressors in her life. And I get that not everybody is always going to share everything going on, right? I do believe it's important to have boundaries in a professional setting. And I understand why sometimes people don't share everything. But if this person is listening and you ever did want to have a conversation or you did want to come back, I would be so excited to hear from you and just know what's going on and see how you're doing. And for anybody who's just, you can relate to this, maybe you are a client, maybe it's like fitness related or something else. I think, and I've even had this in situations where I've ghosted. I've done it. I know. I've totally done it. And it's like, I wonder how that person's going to respond. I ghosted them, but I want to go back. I want to work with them again. What are they going to think? And you like start making up all of these stories in your head. I think most people understand that we're all human and we're all doing our best. And if you do feel a nudge trying to see, can I come back? Most people are going to bring you back with open arms, unless something like really fucking weird happened. That's like a whole other podcast episode. I've had some people do really fucking weird stuff. And I'm just like, we're done. But for the most part, when crazy stuff happens, you feel like I have to ghost. What I would encourage you to do instead is, if you are working with somebody who's helping to hold you accountable, like a coach, is just let them know what's going on, because they might end up having some insight for you or give you some options, some things to think about that maybe you didn't think about on your own, to help keep you in the game instead of being totally removed from it. And if you're that person where it feels like, I just need to jump, I need to ghost this person because I need to, try the next thing and try the next thing and try the next thing. Nothing's going to work for you until you are consistently showing up. There's a lot of strength training programs out there that are really great. And it's not to say certain things are necessarily that much better than others. It's just different. It's kind of like a coffee shop. If you're in New York City, there's a coffee shop on every corner. And yeah, there's a lot of Dunkin' Donuts and a lot of Starbucks, but there's also like a lot of other coffee shops and random ones. And it's just a matter of figuring out where you want to get your coffee from. You're going to be caffeinated regardless of who you go to. It's just whose flavor do you like a little bit more? Who do you vibe with a little bit more? And then you just need to be consistent doing that. But if you keep jumping, like, that's not going to move you closer to results. That's going to keep you in the where did my results go window. When I got to the point where I was just like, Colleen, you have to pull up your big girl panties and get things moving with this supplement, I told myself, okay, I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to respond to all of these emails, and whatever gets done is going to get done, but I cannot let another day go by where nothing happens, because if nothing happens, nothing fucking happens. And when you want change, you need actions to take place. So, giving yourself some non-negotiables, I think, is really helpful. For me, it was, set the timer, respond to as many things as you can with clarity in this time frame, and then, we see what happens tomorrow. But for you, as you're listening to this, maybe it's, okay, I'm going to show up to the gym one time this week, non-negotiable. Doesn't matter if I'm there for an hour, doesn't matter if I'm there for 30 minutes, maybe I'm there for 15 minutes, but I'm just going to show up and start to develop this habit. I'm going to choose to be the person who gets my butt to the gym at least one time a week. And if I can successfully do that, I know it's going to have a snowball effect. So giving yourself those opportunities to have wins that are doable, that's going to be so helpful. It could be something even smaller than that. It could be like, okay, I'm going to drink a glass of water every day. Every day. And if you're thinking, so easy, that's not easy for everyone. I know it's not easy for everyone. But it's giving yourself these things where it's like, there's no excuse. I'm going to do it. And starting with those small pieces, they add up. I'm a huge believer in celebrating wins. I do this with all of my clients in all of my offers. I do this with Tim every single day. I ask that man, and there was a chunk of time where he was like, I fucking hate doing this, Colleen. And I get that it can be hard for people to find wins sometimes. But when we start to acknowledge that, it builds up our confidence in ourselves. It helps us realize that we are capable of more. And it's a really important thing to do. And I want to do this with you right now. What is a win you have had so far today? And if you're like, I don't have one, what if the win is you're listening to this and you're being receptive to this and you are thinking about, okay, maybe I'm going to start to acknowledge wins or try to find wins. I'm trying to search for a win. That is a win. Just changing the way that we're thinking about this. You can set yourself up for these wins. If you're telling yourself the non-negotiable I have is drink the glass of water, show up to the gym one time a week, check in with my coach, post the sweaty selfie, tag the person who's inspiring me, that stuff will add up. And when you see that I can show up for myself, you're going to start to believe in yourself in a bigger way than you have up until this point. And you're going to start to see those results and you're going to stop ghosting. It's all intertwined. If you're somebody who really does struggle with ghosting, the big thing that I want you to take away from this is it's not about being perfect. It's about being present. Present in the sense of you are choosing to show up for yourself. And what you were able to add to that bank account on Monday might look different than what you can add to the bank account on Saturday. But remember, when you show up and you keep adding something consistently, things move, things change. Things just stay stale when you're not adding. And if you're at the point where it's, I just don't know how to add, you have to ask for help. And asking for help could be reaching out to the professional. It could be reaching out to a friend. It could be joining a community where it's the community that's helping to support you. I have an offer called Rebel Bells, and the community, they are flipping fire, checking in with each other. Hey, this has been a tough week, but I'm showing up for the workout anyways. Hey, I don't feel like 100%, but I'm proud of myself for doing the best I can with the energy I have access to. They are amazing. And there's so many communities out and about like that. So if you don't have the friend, if you can't afford the coach at this point in time, get yourself into a community. And I guarantee you are going to have more success than you are just ghosting And if you're interested in joining Rebel Bells, this is my Kettlebell membership that is open to all levels, and it's a great place for beginners to start. We train 3 times a week live on Zoom. You can always catch the recordings. And if you're thinking to yourself, I just want to start committing to training 1 time a week, you could do that as well. You get feedback from me if you were on the lives, you get the community, you get the progressive strength training program. If you are somebody who is ready to start seeing change, you are ready to see results, you are ready to stop ghosting, reach out to me, ask about Rebel Bells, and I can't wait to see you soar. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to give a follow so you never miss an episode.